Marketeers have always sought to define groups of consumers with labels. Millennials is the latest group advertisers are looking to reach. Young, influential and attractive to brands. But this group are also viewed with cynicism by some. And with almost 950 million of them out there, it's easy to see why. One vast homogenized group of 16 to 34-year-olds, it's obvious they aren't all the same. So if a brand wants to attract this group, how can they be confident they're talking to the right people? By carrying out research in over 30 countries, BBC World News and BBC.com set out to understand more about millennials. Firstly, we applied the filter of affluence. This high capital group make up just 16% of millennials as a whole. But why are we so interested in them? We've discovered that the majority of millennials, the other 84%, have a mindset just like all non-millennials. But affluent millennials are different. But even so, not all affluent millennials are the same. The crowd are most similar to the non-affluent millennial group. They aren't commercially receptive and don't have a personal relationship with brands. They merge back into millennials and non-millennials. The understated are wealthy and do spend money, but only have a fleeting relationship with brands and aren't advocates for them on social media or via word of mouth. However, the supercharged stand out from the rest. A very specific tribe of affluent millennials, they define themselves by the brands they buy much more than most 16 to 34-year-olds. They feel emotionally connected to them, even consider them as friends. 84% agree that their favourite brand plays an integral role in their life. 76% say they are defined by the brands they purchase. These consumers are forward-thinking opinion leaders, happy to share their thoughts on brands. They are concerned about two subjects, the environment and the economy. They have a unique relationship with money. It's what defines who they are and how they behave. They want to be globally connected, so international news providers play an important role in their lives, helping them to decipher the world and cut through the noise. And in choosing a news provider, trust is one of the most important qualities the supercharged look for. Confident, worldly brand ambassadors. Affluent millennials are out there and a great group to target in your next ad campaign.
So just a quick to recap some of the main points in that really. I think the first is that we all know is that all millennials aren't the same. It is impossible with such a large group that everybody feels the same, and we think that affluence is the bit that makes the difference. So for this survey, it was like top 25% of household income. So as you can see here, they genuinely are a different breed. There's very little difference actually between non-affluent millennials and non-millennials. There's really, statistically, that's not that different. You'd expect some generational differences. But the red bar with the millennials, they're the ones that really embody the traits that we associate with millennials as a whole. So highly brand loyal, very global in their outlook. But what makes them different to everyone else? I think really, from the research, as we've seen, there's two main things. So it's their relationship with money and the economy, and it's their relationship with the environment. As we saw there, probably due to their affluence, they have a very unique relationship with money. It's very much status defining. It's very different to even to affluent older generations. They're confident, they're outgoing. They like people to know about their money and to know about their wealth. And they need the respect of their peers, and so money is obviously fundamental in helping them achieve that. And when it comes to the environment, it's no surprise. We all know that millennials do have a passionate stance with the environment. But with affluent millennials, the difference really is that it's intensified, but it also translates to action. So they follow it through into their behavior. So they're not just talking about it. If you like, they put their money where their mouth is. And so from this respect, I think it means that they have an expectation that brands will behave in a similar way to the way that they behave. when it comes to corporate responsibility, when it comes to the environment, that kind of sense of we're all in it together. Words aren't good enough. It has to translate into action, as you can see here. They see brands almost like friends, and so it has a fundamental impact on how brands need to communicate with this group. And I think get it right, and advertisers and brands will reach a really highly receptive commercial group that really does stand out across all generations and is very unique. So where do we find this group of affluent millennials? I think if you to ask most people where you find them, they'd tell you on social. Or if they are going to go to news sites, it's probably your digital native sites, more like a BuzzFeed, a Vice. But I think the reality is, if you look at this, it's affluent millennials have a much stronger relationship with traditional news providers than you might expect. 72% of them say they consume more international news than they ever have done. And so, you know, when it comes to the news repertoire, certainly I'm not standing here saying that no millennial doesn't use Vice, but of course they do. But from a news repertoire perspective, they are turning, as I sort of said before, to the more traditional of us, which is obviously great for us. And again, it's not about having a random news feed on your social. It's like going to a restaurant, you know, with a massive menu. I think when it comes to, certainly when it comes to us and my sort of fellow media owners, it's about, they come to us because they want us to tell them what to read and what to, you know, what are the top stories. They're looking for international news brands to sort of inform them what's going on. And because global is local for this group, news providers play a really critical role in helping them define their way in the world, because people tend to think that millennials are all broke and have got no money and they're young. They forget that some of them, if you think about that category, can be married, they can have great jobs, they can be really starting out, they can, you know, some of the people that we interviewed for this had shares and investments across the world, and so they wanted to know what was going on because what happens on one side of the world affected their money. And so it's no surprise, as we've talked about, and again, Andy and I both talked about, it's about authenticity, it's about trust, and that's really things that they value more than anything else. But not all affluent millennials are the same, as you saw from the video. There's 3 different segments, and I think really, you know, the crowd are more like non-millennials. They're not very global in their outlook. They probably have a bit less money, so they're less brand loyal. It's, you know, I liken it to when you got a car. You know, if you're 18, maybe you don't have any money, you don't care what petrol you put in it. But, you know, if you're a bit older and you got your first car, it's slightly different. The understated, bit more global, bit more brand loyal, but it's the supercharge we found from this research. And the reason we call them the supercharge is because for every sort of percentage we saw, add 10% on top. They're the ones that really are standing out. If you look here, they're really strong in their global outlook. They're very much about being influential business leaders, about being early adopters, tech savvy, and very, very commercially receptive brand ambassadors, which, you know, certainly when we're all in marketing and we're all here for that reason, it is really crucial. In terms of going back to that original list and seeing where you'd find them, well, obviously I'm going to put a slide up with me in the top position. No, we never fudge things at the BBC, but, you know, just to let you know, it is, again, it's just been a great piece of research because it enables me to talk to brands in a way that we may not have been in a consideration set before. That's pretty much it. It's certainly not the full deck. If anybody wants any more information, please do find me on LinkedIn or caroline.wilkinson@bbc.com. But thank you very much for your time.